Greetings, flower lovers. This is Estere, and you've reached the Flower Channel. Thanks so much for joining me today to soothe your soul and warm your heart with the beauty and healing magic of flowers. And I'm super excited today to be making a big display piece in this gorgeous hand-blown glass vase made by BGold glass, my dear friend BGold. Now, I love pictures, and this is a funny picture because it has an indentation where you'd expect to see like a handle. So this is really an art piece. And when you have an art piece like this, first of all, you have to be really careful and be really respectful of the vase. And to think about, what do I want to put in the vase that's going to complement or bring out some of these colors and not hide the vase? Because this is going to be going on a display at an art fair, and BGold is going to have a bunch of vases there, and this is going to be a sample of what you could do with one of his vases. So I have my tools. I know I'm going to be using a little kind of some artificial pieces. This needs to last a couple of weeks, so I'm kind of thinking ahead to that. What would be the best materials to use so that it looks fresh for a while. I have my Fiskars scissors and my Velcro clippers because I'm going to be using some branches too. So the first thing I do, fill the container with water. This is water that has been out. I filled it with water from the sink, and then I let it sit so that the chlorine can evaporate. And that's about how much I'm going to need right now. Once I finish the arrangement, I'm going to add more water. But if I fill it way up to the top right away and I start putting stems in there, it's going to overflow all over the place. So again, I'm thinking big. What would be big? What would give it some real height? So I found these wonderful branches, because you know I'm a forager. This is dogwood, and it has a chartreuse green color stem. And look at that, it's the same color as that stripe in the vase. And so you want to be thinking about that. What is going to bring out the colors? Well, when you use plant material that's the same color as on the vase, it's going to make those colors stand out. So I'm trimming all these side little branchlets off because really I don't want, for some arrangements I might want all this side branching. I'm using my Velcro clippers because that's what I use for branches. And I'm going to leave this little bit at the top, and it has this cool little leftover part from a flower. And I'm going to give it a cut. That might be too tall. I don't know. I think it's maybe a little too tall. Remember, you can always make your stems shorter. Can't make them longer. So don't be afraid to try something really tall, and then if it's a little too tall, cut it back. Now, one of the things about flower arranging that is it's hard to sometimes really understand, and it's proportion. What is going to be proportional to this vase? Because this vase is glass, so it has, even though it's big, it has a little bit of a lighter feel. And so what height am I going to be able to put in here that's going to feel correct? You're going to have to play with this yourself. There's no, people say, is it 3 times as high? Is it 4 times as high? I don't do it that way. I do it by when I put the materials in, what does it feel like? So I'm just going to get some of the branches in. And again, if I don't like how they look, I'm going to move them around. These are interesting. Obviously, I don't want them sticking out too straight like this, because if people are coming around to the display, you don't want them to poke their eyes out. This is a very interesting piece. There's a part of me that like, I like it just like this, like just to have branches in it, but I know he wants a little more interest in the flowers, in the arrangement. This I'm going to cut off. These are not super attractive, but again, look at the color of that. It's just gorgeous in there. Let's get some nice branches. All right. I specifically planted these chartreuse dogwoods. I have some red dogwoods out there too, so that in the winter I would actually have some nice plant material. Okay, that's super fun. That's super fun just like that. Okay. Now I have some other really interesting plant material. This is privet, and this is privet berries, which are black. And they're really interesting. I'm going to take off a lot of this foliage because I'm actually not sure how well this foliage is going to hold up in the vase, but I know that the berries will. So I'm just going to, and I like the berries because it's November and there are a lot of berries out on the bushes right now. So it's nice to have a seasonal feel for your arrangements. So again, I'm going to take off all the side foliage. So I just have, because I don't want to, already you can see, you know, whatever is going to be in the vase, you're going to see through the glass. So you want to keep that as clean as possible. A couple of berries. And you want to kind of go with the shape of the pitcher. So the pitcher naturally has, you know, wherever the spout is, there's a little more flow in that area. Okay, this is a really big piece here. I'm going to snip it up. Save some of these for something else. Trim these up here. And this is really fun to do, by the way. It's kind of part of the process, is you're actually kind of creating little sculptures out of your plant material to see what you have left once you've been trimming. Make sure all those leaves are off the stem so that there's just no leaves to get funky under the water. Let's see. This one might be better. Okay, trim all this off. And you know, if you trim too much, so what? you can use your branch for something else if you overdo it, or you trim off something you didn't want to, and that happens all the time. Flower arranging is to teach you not to judge yourself in your creative process, and just let you have the experience of getting creative with flowers. Okay, and then I'm going to put this right in here. Now, if I wasn't going to put any flowers in it, I might just fill it with berries and branches. But I actually do have some flowers I'm going to use too. So, let's see what I have. So I bought a bunch of flowers from the supermarket. So here's what I have. I'm not going to use all of these. I'm not going to use the roses at all. So let's open this bouquet, which I've kept in water. Remember to keep your flowers in water. I'm going to take all the roses out. I'm going to use them for something else. Because I know that roses, especially if someone is intending to this vase of flowers, they're going to drink a lot of water. And if they're not watered every day, they'll die. So I'm going to give these a nice snip and put them back in my container, so my holding container. Here. Put them back in the water, and I'm going to use these for something else later. By the way, this whole bouquet was $10. There's a lot of flowers for $10, and especially if you learn to split them up as you're using them, you really can get a lot of flower arranging out of just a $10 bouquet. So this is, I think this is podocarpus. This is a tropical foliage. I'm going to trim off some of the bottom. I like it. I think it's going to add some nice texture in there. I'm going to just trim off some of the bigger pieces. I'm just going to gently place them in here. And already I'm really liking this whole shape thing. Don't be afraid to move your stems around. And again, you can't make a mistake if you don't. It's just what you like. If you don't like what you did, you can change it. Okay, so we have some really nice looking Alstroemeria lilies. These last a really long time, 2-3 weeks, as do the chrysanthemum disc buds. Disc buds meaning as they're growing, all the little side buds are clipped off, and then you get one big flower at the top. Okay, when you're working with Alstroemeria, they're super sturdy, long-lasting. They come in a variety of colors. They're really a fantastic cut flower. But the thing with them is you've got to take their foliage off. So their foliage can get really funky and broken often just in the packaging. I just do it with my fingers. I take off all the outer foliage. You don't have to do this, but if you're making an arrangement that's supposed to last a few weeks, that foliage is going to get funky really soon. And also then it helps you to see the flower better. Because again, see all this foliage is slightly damaged from packaging, from just its own life journey. This Alstroemeria lily, we don't know what it's been through before it made it to my kitchen table. Trim those off. Okay, just like that. Get all these off. If you need to cut them off, that's fine. Just you want to be able to see those flowers, and you want to think ahead. How are these going to look in a few days? Now, you don't have to do that if you're making an arrangement like for your dinner table tonight, but if you're making something that is going to be out in the world and last a long time, you need to be thinking of that. Okay, gorgeous color for this vase because it's really going to bring out the chartreuse, yellowy green, and that orange. Okay. So let's give it a fresh cut. Just going to be randomly placing them. I don't really know yet what this is going to turn into. You don't have to know. You want to keep these flowers kind of tall because again, this is going to be in a display. Maybe I just do like this. And how I feel about arranging is any step along the way, it should look pleasing and beautiful to you. So here we have. Let's turn it this way. Look at it this way. And you want to remember what's happening below the water line. Is it attractive? Because when you have a glass vase, even if it's colored, you're going to be able to see. Now, because he's going to have this on a display, I'll have one Alstroemeria that's kind of in the back, but I'm going to make this kind of a frontal arrangement where you're looking at it from one side. I'm going to take all the foliage off these disc buds because these is going to get funky really fast, and they don't look that great anyway, the foliage. You can poof your flowers out a little bit, just hold them by the top of the stem here, not too tight, and just kind of poof them. That helps them to open up. Delicious. Love that smell. And these I'm going to do a little shorter because they're heavier flowers, they're denser flowers, they have a bigger head, and we want that head close to the bottom of the arrangement. Kind of a focus point. And I'm going to kind of cluster them near each other to give kind of a, just to give a little more focus in that area. And then, you can flip it, take a look at it. What does that look like? Looks pretty interesting. Now I also have some really fun artificial. I have a little pumpkin here. These are artificial silk, really kind of fun, and I love them because they're the right color. This is a little pumpkin, this is a little zucchini, and I'm going to use my clippers. I'm going to cut them. Now, of course, these don't have to be in water because these are not alive, but I'm just going to cut them a little shorter so that they're not taking up too much room in the vase. And this is going to give a lot of movement and interest, right? Because we have this curly Q over here, which is super fun. Oh, that's fun. And you can move these around And people are gonna look at that, they're gonna be like, what's that? And that's what you want. You want kind of some interest. What are people looking at? And then I think I'm gonna put my pumpkin right on top of it there. I'm gonna give this another cut. This has many stems of wire in here. This is not going to be easy to cut with anything but a wire cutters. This is what you need your wire cutters for. And this one I'm going to push way down in here. So you get, because you want your heavier, denser, larger materials to be near the base of the container. And then your other flowers, the lighter ones, to be taller. Let's see. Well, that is fun. And it's nice to bring a flower right to the lip of a beautiful vase like this, because again, it's going to call your attention to the vase. Now these flowers, this flower arrangement is to accent the vase. So you want to make the vase the focus. Now I also collected I went out this morning and just collected some interesting, I don't know if I want to use them or not, but I think I do. These are milkweed pods. And they're very seasonal. You wouldn't kind of use them at any other time of the year, but right now. And I'm going to just put them in there for textural interest, and because I guarantee you people are going to be attracted to these interesting shapes, and they're going to come over and look at the vases, because that's the purpose of this arrangement, is to again tell a story about the vase. Ooh, I love these. These are really fun. And you can go pretty high with these because they're very light colored. So heavier, darker colors more towards the base, and lighter colors towards the top. And take these foliage off. And again, I use these because it's seasonal. This is November in a deciduous climate. So we know that things are out in the wild that are just kind of the remains. Look at this cool one. It has a tiny little one that never opened. It's so fun. So you want to use things that are interesting, and then you kind of turn it. What am I looking at here? What else could it use? Oh, it could use one right off to the side here. And you just keep working it. And sometimes you might want to take something out if you don't. I mean, look at that. How fun is that? Who isn't going to come over and look at that? What is that? So I have a lot of interest here. I've got these tendrils hanging. That's super fun. Which is really fun because I know BGold and he's got really curly hair. So that'll be kind of an extra kind of an extra element that kind of ties the artist to the arrangement. I'm going to clip this out, this one right here, and I'm going to put it down in here. Sometimes when you have your stems crossing in an arrangement, it just creates confusion. So we don't want to have confusion. We want it to be, pleasant to look at. Not always, but in this arrangement. Sometimes you want it to be disturbing. It's not disturbing. I'm gonna hang my zucchini because that's how you usually see them. They're growing on a vine. Oh, how do you like that? That is super fun. So let's take a look. Don't be afraid to turn it around, and what am I looking at, and what am I seeing here? Oh, I really like that. Okay, let's get everything out of the way. You can kind of see it. Okay, and that's pretty spectacular for not too much materials. I think I'm going to put one, I have some other grasses too, but it feels like that would be a little too much in this Splendor vase. I am going to put one more right here. I'm very much into the feeling of three-dimensional. Flat is not nature. Nature is three-dimensional, always. Or I would say multi-dimensional. Very beautiful. and compliment yourself. Oh, you did a really nice job. That's really pretty. And watch how, you see how it's a little heavier to this side, which you want because this is where the handle would be. And this is where the opening is. So a little heavier on this side. This is about, again, proportion, which you just learn as you do it. You learn, you'll make something, you'll be like, that doesn't look quite right. I think I'm going to put a little privet berry right over there. Find one. And don't rush. Don't rush. Take your time. This is a meditative experience to create beautiful flower arrangements. Okay, so I've got a couple here. I'm going to put them right where that, oh yeah, that's sweet. Just adds a little more movement and, oh yeah, nice. Like that. And don't forget, I know one more thing I wanted to do, which is my ivy, which I always love to use ivy. Let's put in this ivy branch right here. Oh, look what that does. Wow, that changes everything, right? Just makes that, kind of makes a whole circle. Look, and we have a lot of circles here. We have the pumpkin, we have the disc buds. These are circles. And when you look at flowers, you can kind of start to see geometric shapes. And the repetition of geometric shapes is actually very pleasing to the eye. So, oh yes. Yes! Beautiful. So the final step is add water. I'm going to add water in the back because that's where there's room. And I'm going to fill it all the way to the top. And this is really the trick to longevity in flower arrangements. You've got to keep the water high up in the vase so that the flowers can drink, because water for flowers is like air for us. They have to be in water unless they're growing, if they're in soil. So you really need to watch that. And if you find your water is down to here, it will be no surprise that your flowers have died. But this arrangement should last easily 2 to 3 weeks. You just keep watering it. BGold glass. I'm delighted to arrange in this beautiful art piece today. Thanks for joining me on the Flower Channel. Bring beauty, love, magic into your life with flowers.